She was crying courtside. And the WNBA had to step in. A teenage girl walked into an arena holding a sign that said thank you. By the end of the night, she was in tears, security had gotten involved, and a professional sports franchise was issuing a public apology. This is not a rumor. This actually happened, and what came out over the next 48 hours changed the entire conversation happening across women's sports right now. Stick with me, because what you're about to hear involves a WNBA co-owner, two teenage fans, a viral confrontation caught on camera, and a punishment handed down directly from the league office. And by the end of this video, I'm going to show you exactly why this one moment on a Tuesday night in Seattle became a national story within 48 hours, with ESPN, Fox News, and even the White House press secretary weighing in. So don't go anywhere, because the part near the end of this story is the part almost nobody is talking about. Before we get into it, if you're new here, hit subscribe right now. I mean it. Stories like this get buried by other channels within a day, and if you don't subscribe, you're going to miss the follow-up when it happens, because trust me, this story is not over. Tap that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and let's get into what actually happened. Let's rewind about 2 weeks before any of this happened in Seattle. Indiana Fever guard Sophie Cunningham sat down for an interview and was asked directly about protecting young girls in sports. She didn't dodge it. She said she believes young girls shouldn't have to compete against biological men, that she feels strongly about protecting women's and girls' sports, and that she stands by that belief. When she was pushed further and asked whether that view could be seen as targeting the trans community, she said she doesn't dislike anyone, that she believes there's room for everyone, but that she isn't going to change what she actually believes just because people ask her to. That's it. That was the whole statement. No names. No insults. Just an athlete answering a question honestly. But here's the part that made this bigger than one interview. Within about 48 hours, this wasn't just a WNBA story anymore. USA Today picked it up. ESPN ran segments on it. Fox News gave it its own national coverage. And the White House press secretary was asked about it directly and weighed in, saying Cunningham was on the side of an issue most Americans already agree on. For a WNBA role player answering one question in a feature interview, that is an enormous amount of attention. This wasn't Sophie chasing a headline. This was a single honest answer that the entire country ended up talking about. Now here's where it gets personal, and where things start heading toward what happened in Seattle. A little over a week after that interview, the Indiana Fever traveled to Seattle to play the Storm. Before the game even tipped off, a small group of demonstrators gathered outside Climate Pledge Arena. Some were there specifically in support of Cunningham. Others were there because of a Washington state ballot initiative gaining traction around fairness in girls' school sports. People showed up wearing gear with X and Y symbols, and some carried signs. Now stay with me here, because this next part is where the whole night flips. Two teenage fans made it inside and sat courtside, wearing gear from a brand that advocates for keeping women's sports female only. Their signs weren't aggressive. One read something along the lines of "Thank you for speaking up for girls." That's the whole message. No insults. No player's name attacked. Just a thank you sign, sitting quietly courtside during a basketball game. And then, according to the girls themselves and an independent journalist who was sitting with them, a woman approached them mid-game. The girls later identified her, and it was confirmed by multiple outlets, as Celeste Keaton, a Seattle Storm minority co-owner. According to their account, and this was later reported by ESPN, Fox News, Yahoo Sports, and ABC News, Keaton confronted them and directed expletives at them, allegedly calling them, in their words, "effing insane." The girls said they were left in tears, and that they were so shaken they put their signs away for the rest of the game. Think about that for a second. Two teenagers, sitting quietly, holding a sign that said thank you, and it escalated into a grown adult with an ownership stake in the team cursing at them in front of a sold-out arena. Now here's the part where the league had to actually respond, and this is where you need to keep watching, because what happened next is the reason this story didn't just fade away like 100 other viral sports moments do. The following day, Storm majority owner Ginny Gilder released a statement acknowledging that a co-owner had made comments to two fans, apologizing, and saying that everyone who attends a Storm game deserves to feel welcome. It was a carefully worded statement. It didn't name Keaton directly. It didn't detail exactly what was said. But it was enough to confirm that something had genuinely happened. Then, one day after that, the real hammer came down. The WNBA itself confirmed that Celeste Keaton had been fined an undisclosed amount and suspended from attending the team's next 5 home games. Let that sink in. This wasn't just a team apology brushing something under the rug. This was the league stepping in and directly disciplining a co-owner over her behavior toward two fans in the stands. The Storm organization responded by saying they respected the league's decision and remained committed to creating a welcoming, respectful environment for anyone attending a game. And Sophie Cunningham herself didn't stay quiet either. She addressed the situation directly, saying the girls had put their signs away because they felt scared and uncomfortable, and she called Keaton's actions, in her own words, truly embarrassing. Now here's the question that's been driving this entire conversation across social media for the past few days, and it's the reason people can't stop talking about this. This wasn't a fringe demonstration. This wasn't an extreme viewpoint. Polling has consistently shown that a majority of Americans support the idea of keeping women's sports categories based on biological sex. So when two teenagers showed up with a sign that essentially agreed with the majority opinion in the country, and the response from inside that arena was a co-owner cursing at them until they cried, that's the part that people are still trying to make sense of. And I want to be clear about something before we go further, because this matters. Sophie Cunningham never called for any of this. She didn't organize the demonstration outside the arena. She didn't ask fans to bring signs. She answered a question honestly 2 weeks earlier, and everything that followed, the coverage, the rally, the confrontation, the suspension, all of it happened around her, not because of anything she orchestrated. So where does this actually leave things? The suspension has been handed down. The apology has been issued. But there are still questions nobody in the organization has fully answered. What exactly was said in that exchange, word for word? Is this the end of it, or is there more that hasn't come out yet? And with a state ballot initiative on girls' sports fairness already gaining momentum in Washington, this conversation is not going away anytime soon, no matter how many carefully worded statements get released. If this story develops any further, and based on how fast it escalated over the last week, I bet it will, you are going to want to be subscribed so you don't miss it. This is exactly the kind of story that keeps unfolding in ways nobody expects, and I'll be covering every update as it happens. So let me know in the comments, what do you think should happen next? Do you think the suspension was enough, or should there have been more accountability? Drop your thoughts below, hit subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next one.